Hello, my name is Heather Leeson. I'm with Open Knowledge, and today I am here with Martin Van de Ven and Bastian Douglas from Open Data Hong Kong, and we're going to talk about some of the work that they're doing and some of the things that are inspiring in their community and their network in Hong Kong. So, good morning. It's evening here in Canada, but good morning.
Good evening. Good afternoon.
Evening.
Some time zone somewhere. Some time zone somewhere. So thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to see what work you're working on, and I think from May to June you have quite a big month happening. You have a longitude hackathon. Tell me about that. What's that about?
That's right. We have a series of hackathons here in Hong Kong, and we wanted to try something different. We wanted to get the projects to be more sustainable and to actually also allow them to surface the data that they might be using for their projects. So instead of just cramming it into a weekend, we're now having a hackathon that lasts for 4 weeks. So we don't worry, it's not that crazy. It's just teams self-organize, and we brought all the participants together last Saturday, and they formed a team, and now they self-organize. We provide like a time and space to meet every week. And presentations will be in 4 weeks.
Fantastic. Now, what kind of projects are you guys working on, Mart?
You mean like what kind of projects are coming out of the hackathon, or
yes,
more broadly? There's one fantastic project. It's called LegCo Watch. So our parliament is called Legislative Council here, but we don't really have a lot of insights into what's going on, who's in there. The data is available. It's called the Hansard record, which it might be called in Canada and the UK as well.
It is called Hansard here, yes.
It is named after Mr. Hansard. So these are the verbatim records of what goes on inside of Parliament, and so some guys are parsing them and making them available online, so you can actually trace what your member of council has been saying, has been voting for. So it's very similar to They Work For You in the UK.
Fun. And how did you get involved? How did you get involved in Open Data in Open Data Hong Kong? I understand that yourself and Bastian, you co-founded it.
Yes, yeah, that's right. I wanted to do something with urban data about 2 years ago. And so I joined this startup which promised me that they would move into the urban data space, but they got stuck on e-commerce data. So for 2 years I wasn't doing anything with open data. But the companies I was working for, they kept promising me, no, we will do open data. We will get there. Don't worry. So by the time I got fed up, I actually happened to meet Bastian that week, and the next week we had Open Data Hong Kong.
Fantastic.
So I'm going to quit my job, and I'm actually just working on open data.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with your volunteer life taking over your career, for sure. And Bastian, how did you get involved in Open Data Hong Kong?
February of last year, just arrived in Hong Kong for the second time, and there was an event going on, a Barcamp event, part of the many exciting conferences that happen regularly in Hong Kong. And as you may know, with Barcamps, it's a platform for discussion and ideas. And I proposed a session. It was about open data because I wanted to find out what was going on with open data in Hong Kong. And so convene a discussion, kind of describe it, but also get some ideas, get some have that discussion. And so there were 2 sessions really about open data, and it was kind of like the background and what's happening now. And so after I convened a session, and I think there was a lot of excitement in the room. And Mark, being in the room, also he passed around a list getting people's contact information, and that's really how it started the community, keeping in touch with the people who wanted to have that discussion. So there were two sessions there about open data. Mine was about more finding out what open data is and what's really going on in Hong Kong, and the second session was actually more about what's going on with it and where should it go. And a lot of excitement there. There were a lot of very interested people. And then shortly after that, we got people together and started having some regular meetups and really exploring the topic, discovering what was possible and what motivates people. And I think from that we found out a couple of things. One was not only is there a lot of excitement and possibilities with open data, but also just how surprising how much wasn't being done at the time with open data. And so we saw that it was very important to have a community to promote and push these discussions, and also get some collaboration going on these ideas, and making it relevant for government, and also supporting government in the progress that they were making as well at the time with open data.
And so you both met at a tech event, and then you started this community. So tell me a little bit about, like, I know what it takes to grow a community. I know it's really hard. I think, Bastian, you and I met at Open Data Day in Toronto in 2010, and we kind of played together and tried to figure out, like, how do we build this. So tell me a little bit more about. So you've been doing these events you're on your 21st event, you said, for Open Data Hong Kong. So tell me a little bit about how you built your community and who's involved in your community, just the extent of the people and the kind of tasks you're doing.
Sure. Well, we got people from a lot of different backgrounds, be it developers, programmers, also statisticians, data scientists, and also people working with NGOs and in research. And so certainly there is that interest, there is that background. It was a bit surprising finding out just how much more people wanted to know about open data, because it's kind of different if it's not already there. And so trying to build up that, explaining what that is. Even right now, the government has had I wouldn't say an open data portal, but one that we refer to as such, a public sector information portal called Data One. And it had been around for a while, for a few years. And so, you know, that had already started. And so the rest was also, for us at the beginning, to start off with getting citizen engagement, or at least that response as well. So it was very important at the beginning to find out, well, what is out there? What's going on? What do people understand? What are the possibilities? And so it was important to bring these people together and have regular events and really explore the topic and explore it together, and do so kind of honestly and very collaboratively, and openly, of course. And to do so regularly, having regular touch points for people to get together and have those discussions, and not just to get together and just talk, but also to speak and understand and explore certain topics, even some things that are very newsworthy at the time, but also some progress that's been going on for a long time as well. Looking at the 21 events, we've explored a lot of different topics in very different ways, and also the hackathons as well have been able to get that on the other side, the civic engagement, and find out, well, what people want to work on and how can they connect with each other and have more progress on those. So I think at the beginning it is important to be able to bring the people together, and not only to try to lead them along their way, but also to follow them where they want to go and amplify their voices and get them in touch with each other.
True. And Mart, how long have you been involved in the open data community in Hong Kong?
Since that very day.
Oh, really? So it was your both your start. That's fantastic. So you've been building this community. You've been having these events. Now, Hong Kong's a large place. I don't know if it's like Jakarta in terms of how hard it is to get around, but how difficult. It is the opposite, so very easy to get around. Okay, super. So do you find that, are you working with universities at all with the work you've been doing, or is it just people that have found you? Like, how many people are involved, would you say, on and off on a go to month basis within your community?
I'd say we have about like a group of about 100 people that would come out to our events. And then on our social platforms, we have collectively about 1,000 people who are following us.
Right.
So it's not so much university-based, although we are supported by individual researchers inside of university. But it's mostly individual support at this point. Yeah. But I would like to say, like, for Hong Kong, I think Open Data Hong Kong fills a particular niche. We don't have a lot of these civically engaged communities that provide a platform for people to talk about societal issues where technology is one of the possible solutions. So I see that we draw in people from a lot of different sectors across society, and they kind of, I guess, treat Open Data Hong Kong as a platform.
So what you really have is a Tim Hortons. You have a community center.
A virtual one, that's for sure. Yeah.
Sounds like it. So, Bastian, you write a weekly or a monthly newsletter that gives kind of a roundup of what's happening within your community. And so, do you find that those kind of touch points? I think that your team is pretty great at talking to your audience and talking to your community. Not a lot of open knowledge or open data groups have regular events with 100 people showing up a month, and so that's pretty fantastic, especially in a busy city. So, how do you keep that momentum? What are some of the tricks and tips that you have for other communities out there that are trying to build? And again, every city is different, every community is different, but that would be great to hear what you guys think other cities could learn from you.
Yeah. Yes, we know each other from Toronto, and also before that, I was in Ottawa. I think what's very important when I was in Ottawa, it was very important that we had communities I was involved with, that we had those regular events. I think that's the most important part. Having regular events, sticking to that schedule, because there's always 99 reasons to not do something or 99 reasons not to have an event, but you need one good one. And you don't need everybody there each time, and it doesn't need to be perfect. People are part of that. People are the event, the interactions that are taking place. Also seeing some communities here as well. It's easier to keep the momentum going on if you have that schedule and you stick with it. And so we committed early on. Every 3 weeks we had an event. Now it's all the way up to like every 2 weeks now.
It's up to every 2 weeks.
Up to every 2 weeks. So looking to have at least about 24 maybe this year. We'll find out. But those regular events, I think, are important to have that interaction. And it's not the events aren't the deliverable. The events are a way for us to keep that momentum building, but also for us to keep up to date with some of the developments that are out there, which could otherwise be quite difficult. If you have regular events, then you can stay up to date. You can have a point where people who want to understand this or know more about it or are very new to it or want to find out what is it about, that's where they can come in and come out from the cold and interact and find out more. And so I would say with events, make it easy, but continue on the momentum, have it regular, and stick with it. Commit to maybe the first few, and then keep the ball rolling on from there. And also to work with others as well. I think there's always a lot of effort that people want to dedicate to it, and they can really lead things on themselves. So the events are a good way for any fledgling community to really discover and explore a topic, and also get a better sense of the community while defining it as well.
So what is your vision for the next few months? Like, so you have this longitude hackathon, which I love the name, by the way. I really want to steal it. Code for America is calling it brigades and sustainability projects, but I love the word longitudinal. I was like, gentlemen, you guys have got us marked. So tell us, what else do you have planned for the upcoming few months, Mark?
So you'll be happy to hear that this is a pilot for a longitudinal hackathon that's even bigger and even longer in the fall. I don't know how much I'm supposed to say about it just yet. But it'll kick off. No one's listening, right?
Hey, this is being recorded. Welcome to the YouTube. Don't steal your own thunder. It's good to know you have long-term plans. Now, in terms of your long-term plans, so you're working on sustainable community, you have some projects. Mart, you're really interested in urban renewal and those kind of conversations about urban development and smart cities. Is that the kind of thing you're working in?
Yeah, that's right. But we're also adopting some of the technologies that have come out of the Open Knowledge Foundation. Like that's one of the things that we are really grateful for that Open Knowledge has produced. So at the hackathon, we're both getting deployments of Freudy, that's the Freedom of Information Access portal, and we're also getting a CCAN instance up and running for non-governmental data in Hong Kong.
Nice, nice. You know that you can use Data Hub IO, right, too, if you want to do a hosted version of it, just so you can play with it. I like
Sure,
to
sure.
call it, yeah, you can do either one, but by all means, install CCAN and start tinkering, but, there's like a varied degree.
There's that. I mean, we already had some experiments here with a CCAN instance,
Mm-hmm.
but I found that if you don't tailor it to the particular use case, so in this case it would be like NGOs, universities. I want to make it more transparent and clear, like what it is that they're doing when they're uploading their data. So on DataHub.io, it's kind of for the in crowd, like, oh, you're already aware that you want to host your data somewhere. You're already
Right,
aware that it's open data.
right.
So I want a site that makes that more obvious and sells
Sure.
it.
Well, we all have to have a business model at some point, right?
I mean,
Um,
selling it, not the financial, not in the financial sense.
no, it's true though. But I mean, I think you really hit it though. I think that we need to have clear messaging and we have to make it easier for people. Tomorrow I'm going to have a conversation with the Ontario government and Toronto, City of Toronto, and I'm going to talk about the on-ramp, that we've kind of missed that on-ramp conversation about how do we get people interested in open data, and maybe we don't call it open data, maybe we have that conversation around doing that. And so
Yeah.
that's why I'm really excited, Bastian, that you were talking about deep engagement and really spending some time getting to know people and figuring out what the problems are that you want to solve, and really work together on that community engagement piece, because I think that's really core to success, and I think it also helps you identify things that might not just be the shiny new thing, but more things that could be more useful.
Yeah. Yeah, I am inspired by some of the practices of the open data community in Toronto, reflecting about Transit Camp, that
Oh
civic
yeah.
engagement initiative, which was a platform for engaging with the government of the municipal Toronto government, to
Mm-hmm.
show up and be involved and then end up supporting it and kind of interacting with citizens exactly on a specific topic like transit. I think we see that here as well. I have to say, government here have been very communicative and involved in some of our projects, and they want to know more. They want to find out more and know what those other practices are, despite and beyond what they need to deliver for their services and accountabilities. And I think that's been very interesting. They were they were around before Open Data Hong Kong, and so on
Mm-hmm.
some ways as well, we need to find out, well, how can we use what data and information that they're already providing, and provide that feedback of improving the quality of those data sets, as well as the number of those data sets as well. And so yeah, they are coming to us. They want to find out more how they can go ahead and do that engagement and make it more relevant and make it valuable. And we also do need to communicate too what is open data. That topic has come up quite a bit. And it's been really interesting seeing how people seem to get it here, get a lot of different ideas and the feedback,
Mm-hmm.
I think Hong Kong is quite data-centric, and there's a lot of very interesting ideas that we get from even people from very different backgrounds for some of the projects, and also Hong Kong being very worldly and competitive. It's great to see, because of this being a global movement, being able to see what are some of the progress, what is the progress being made in other countries, and what are some of those ideas of those
Mm-hmm.
of those projects, and in a shareability way to copy those and apply those and try to improve on those. So that's been very beneficial. I know when I was involved with this in Canada, open data was still very, very new, or at least even as a concept, for Canada to get on board and understand. That was a hard sell. That was a real hard sell on both sides, inside government and also by the public.
Right.
We benefit now from being able to see what those practices are elsewhere, and that's highly beneficial.
Yeah, I think that I think it's really important to kind of think about those buy-in conversations and to have that global perspective. And I really appreciate that you can compare between a couple of countries. Now, your organizations, do you speak mainly in English, or do you speak in other languages? Like, how do you deal? Because you say that Hong Kong is a very international city. So how many languages do you guys work in? I think that you probably would have to work in maybe one or two.
One or two or three.
Which
Well,
languages do you work in?
well, it's the lingua franca is definitely English for our organization, but especially
Hmm.
Bastien has been putting a lot of effort into reaching out to the Cantonese community as well.
Hmm.
Um, but it's tough. It's tough if there's not a lot of people that can lead in both languages. And of course, we have Mandarin as well.
Right. So does that mean that you translate your items into English, Cantonese, and Mandarin? Do you try? Is that your end game, that you want to have it in all these languages to reach more people, or how would you do
Yeah,
that? Because it sounds like it's a really complex thing. And I mean, Canada, we have two languages depending on which province you're in, and in other places in the world there's many languages too. So how do you navigate that, and what tips have you found so far? What's your plan going forward that you can share with us?
yeah. I think it's really really tough. But one of the examples that I'd like to share is that we developed a poster recently. So we had all the text in English, and then this lovely thing happened. We said like, hey, here's the text. We'd love the translation in Chinese. And
Mhm.
I think within 1 hour that we posted it on Facebook, we had like all those cursors on Google Doc, like racing through the translation and typing out traditional and
Fantastic.
simplified Chinese.
Hmm.
That was the easy part. Getting the translation was easy, but then actually verifying that translation, like getting someone to sign off on all the more detailed terms, and I think maybe Bastian can share a bit more about those. That's the complicated part, to make sure that we are precise in our wording in
Hmm.
languages that we don't understand. That's tough.
True. Bastian, I think we were talking about that before we started the call today. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the language stuff that you've encountered and things that you can suggest? Because I think that people in other countries also have to work in a couple languages, so it's helpful to
Yeah.
hear.
Taiwan. The open data community and the work that's been done in Taiwan is in Chinese, and so we want to communicate and we do exchange with them as much as we can. It was interesting trying to translate open data to Chinese. Hong Kong, China, and Taiwan have Hong Kong and Taiwan have localized Chinese,
Hmm.
and so here in Hong Kong, even using the term open data, we tried to use that term from Taiwan. So looking at it in Taiwan, because it's a bit different over in China, we noticed that, well, some of the dialogue we've had on Facebook community was pointing out that the term data actually meant information, but it was a very conceptual discussion. Well, what do we mean by information? Inputs, outputs. It doesn't exactly translate directly. So we actually have to have a different term relating to open data here in Hong Kong than in Taiwan, and also with China in a certain way. So yes, translating some of these terms and actually coming down to, well, what do these terms mean? What is our precise intent with what those mean, and what is even open? Is it government? So one of the translations we saw from Chinese, it was like, well, government information meant open data. And we're like, no,
Yep.
no, no, it's free use of information. But no, it's not information; it's actually data.
Right.
So these are some of the discussions that are very interesting in Hong Kong because it is very new here, open data.
Hmm.
Whereas before, what government has is the public sector information portal. So yeah, working with language is it's an interesting challenge. Hong Kong being very worldly has English is very relevant here. It is very useful. You see it even regularly from NGOs and a lot of different companies. They do publish in English. You can't go wrong with English. You can just be more relevant by publishing in Chinese. So
Hmm.
we have had a lot of that dialogue in Facebook. We have that engagement, and we have even some posts in both English and in Chinese. But we need to pilot these things as well. Do you want to have a poster that has both languages? We've created a stand-up poster, and it was a question of, well, do we fit both of those on, and both the
Right.
English and the Chinese, and is this not going to be too much text on there? And it just reminds me of my time in Montreal, trying to do these designs, and it's like, well, do we make just two of them? I think we really have to pilot these things. So we just created a separate Facebook group for the Chinese discussions to make sure that we're not losing some of these topics, and it could be a bit of noise in the English one, that if there are Chinese postings that people are just going to skip over. So how can we go ahead and keep that? And what's kind of developing from that is the English group is really looking at some of the practices going on outside of Hong Kong, but in a relevant way for Hong Kong. Can we have this here? Can we go towards Creative Commons 0 for government information, right? That's something that has come up from what we're looking at with Canada and the UK. But then also in the Chinese one, the Chinese group, we can see, well, what are some of the practices and some of the discussions? Right now, there's the issue around freedom of information and access to information, which is specific to Hong Kong, and that's a discussion that's happening in Chinese. So yes, working with the languages, it is a bit challenging, but also it's just opportunities to become more relevant and better communicate, better communicate to where people are. Choosing the language, it depends on, well, how you want to communicate and where those people are.
Right.
As we mentioned, we're having our 21st regular event next week, and so one of them, we want to make it in Cantonese, have a Cantonese speaker, or at least have a local speaker talking specifically about the issues here. And there's a lot of, it's not that that's challenging to organize, but rather it's an opportunity to have much better outreach and broader outreach in a local way. So yeah, so I think there's dealing with language can be challenging. But fortunately, it's interesting that we started with English and then going into Cantonese, and some other groups that go the opposite way. Start off first with Cantonese and then try to have the going to bilingual and having English for broader outreach. So I think it's a natural progression as organizations become more mature to expand their language footprint.
I think it's really interesting that you mentioned Facebook a couple of times. I think that a friend of mine pointed out, I'm with Humanitarian OpenStreetMap team, and in Jakarta, it's far more relevant to use Facebook than to use Twitter. And so I'm just wondering, like, in terms of how you reach your reach people, it sounds like, of course, like you always want to have regular events, which you already mentioned. You want to reach them in their own language, which you mentioned. You also said you want to reach them at different times in different ways. But what other things have you found that help you grow your community that is unique potentially for Hong Kong? You said that it's a worldly city, and you've said that it's multiple languages. So what else can you tell us about the Hong Kong community that maybe we don't know about yet, that we haven't touched
Twitter
on?
is not all that popular here. It's been kind of surprising. I mean, it's almost a niche community. The people who are on Twitter. It was great to connect with OKFN and find out how we can become ambassador, and that happened over Twitter, and I don't see that really happening on Facebook. This is how it happens locally. We first had a Google Plus community. And that we had I think it was 50 and then 80 people, and went up really fast. And but we're seeing that the engagement is higher on Facebook. It's been easier to not only push out information but also have those comments too. But we've tried it out also with Twitter, and that we get in touch with some people who wouldn't have otherwise on both Google Plus or on Facebook. It is a lot of work to try to maintain these separate communities, but you have to try, and you have to pilot, and you have to reflect on those as well. But yeah, I found that pretty interesting about Twitter and also with Facebook, but also something that's a bit difficult with both of those are that they're both blocked in China, and there is some very interesting communities that are sprouting up in China around open data. And it is limited how we can communicate with them. We're actually communicating more with Taiwan and the work of the open data communities in Taiwan than we are with China, and that has to do with I think it has to do with our social media engagements.
Do you guys use Weibo then as well to communicate with folks? No? We have a comment here from Malaysia that they also have the same experiences with multi-language issues. So I think that I'd like to see some conversations between other countries. And I think it's really interesting that you're working with Taiwan or learning from Taiwan. I think that there's something to be said about learning across borders, and I think that you're going to teach us that. As I said, the majority of the world's population is in the area that you're in. So I think that's going to really change what open data is. And I think that's going to change the conversation. So first of all, I just wanted to say thank you so much, Bastien and Mart, for talking today. Did you have any other comments that you wanted, or things that you wanted to tell us about your work in Open Data Hong Kong that we missed today?
I think one more thing as a tip to growing the community is what we found here, that some of our members, they would really go out and try to engage a very particular group and work on an open data project with them. So one of our members, Scott Drummond, he went out to various universities and tried to convince professors to make open data part of their the final project, students' final projects. And 4 of those students, they picked up open data and worked on an open data portal, did various open data applications, and they're now very important members in our community. And I've seen that happen several times. That there's one very committed member of our community that goes out, engages a group of people, and then brings them into the wider community. And they're very sticky if you will.
Yeah, we all have our nests. So I have a comment from Rob. We had a comment earlier about Malaysia, which I told you about, and I have another comment from Rob. He says that Open Data Hong Kong seems to be taking off very well, so congratulations for your hard work. Keep it up. And he was asking more about your link-ups with other groups internationally. And so you've mentioned Taiwan, but he's asking specifically about Singapore and South Korea and even the mainland. So is there any thoughts about hosting co-events or hosting projects with people? I think you've mentioned some complexities in terms of contact, but any thoughts on kind of cross-country activities?
Yeah, it's our relationship with mainland China is up and coming, I'd say. But that's also because open data is up and coming in China. So it's just in the past half year that we've seen Open Data China form. We're sending emails back and forth with Feng Gao, who's one of the OKFN ambassadors in China. Yeah, right. Right. So that's just going to happen a lot more. Feng actually connected our electrical watch with one of the projects in South Korea. So they're now learning from each other. So yeah, I see that happening a lot more. That this Southeast Asia connection is played up a bit more.
Super. So we have another comment from Rob. He must be wide awake. He must have had another cup of coffee.
Where is this guy? Where is Rob?
I don't know. Well, Rob, please tell us in typing where you're from. So he says that Hong Kong is number 15, which is 1 is good and 15 is just down the list on Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index. Yet comes third.
Perception.
Okay. So I'm suspecting that there's going to be an open spending conversation coming up soon. And he mentions the Financial Secrecy Index. So he's wondering, how do you use open data? How do you see that open data affects these rankings and such indexes? And maybe the question you didn't ask was how can you use open data for transparency in Hong Kong? Or is that something that it's on your plans?
It is and it isn't. In a way, transparency is it's a bit of a hot issue here. So it's not something that we immediately drive. We see the value of open data being wider and broader than just for the sake of transparency. But it could potentially be a side effect, if you will. Mm-hmm. Whenever we talk about open spending, there's zero interest in making that happen from the government perspective.
Right, and from citizens, how does that, from the people who participate in events, how do they? It doesn't sound like it's something that's on the top priority as of yet.
it's not the top priority. So procurement and spending is not that developed here.
I mean, transparency. I mean, it's a big topic, right? It's a big topic that reaches into a lot of different things. Press freedom has been a big topic this year since faith and the faith and trust in press freedoms here has kind of been indexed, and now having regular research to reveal that. I think open data helps if it doesn't help improve that ranking. I mean, it's not open data isn't the end, the beginning. It's the beginning to be able to build on that and have better understanding. And if there are better ways to be able to deep dive into what that data is, well, it starts with making that available. A lot of the open data we've worked with, the community has worked with, has to be scraped, and it's just not provided that way. It actually starts off more as government information or public sector information that it doesn't even come from government. And then we have to go and massage that and try to get it in a sortable way that we can start to manipulate and work with. So how does it help with the transparency? Well, I think what's very valuable about Hong Kong is that, well, it's a good start of that conversation and gets us, it makes it a lot more possible to analyze that, and that's very important. We've discussed quite a bit about how in the country index from Open Knowledge, Hong Kong ranks really low. We want to better understand that. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. Is it open data or is it public sector information? We don't have postal codes, and I know that's one of the measures. And we got to improve that. And I think, well, we certainly see that there's a lot of possibilities and opportunities in Hong Kong when we get onto open data. I mean, just reflecting on the past year, there's been just so much been happening. Some companies starting up, really looking into really open data, scraping that, making that available, and a lot of the developments too. Would it necessarily? I think open data is reflective of a place's transparency, but I don't know how much it would help for being to actually improve that, but at least better diagnose if there is a lack of transparency, and a lot of different things that you can really look at for transparency. Whether it be press freedoms or access to information from government, and also the budget too. These are new things, and I think the pressure is really in comparing with other countries. The index is really helpful for that. Singapore has come up a few times, and it's been really worthwhile to compare with Singapore, because we really see them as being quite innovative. And there's that big opportunity to compare with different countries, to try out different things, see what works, and apply it from there, and seeing what what progress and what successes they've had, and as being a vision to where we want to be and how to get there. So I think transparency is very valuable here, and the more data that's available will be much more helpful for us to chart a way forward.
I think it's pretty exciting to think about the fact that, in Southeast Asia there's all these opportunities, and you're teaching me. I'm just learning so much from you gentlemen. I just want to thank you for sharing some of your perspectives and stories and what you're working on. And I think one question, Mart, that you asked me to ask is, if you are from Malaysia or from other countries in Southeast Asia, please do reach out and maybe have some cross conversations about how you. I know. Let me just be your advertisement, Mart. I should put a little poster up. Calling all open data mavens. Can we please connect? I think that's how Barcamp communities really connect. I think about Barcamp Thailand. That is one of the largest bar camps in Southeast Asia, right? Like, it's just massive. And I think that having people have an open data meetup there from the different countries. I mean, if you had like a big bucket of change, that would be very helpful to get there. Of course, I'm sure it's super expensive and super far, but just an idea. So just to close off, did you have any closing comments about Open Data Hong Kong and your work, or anything else that you'd like viewers to know about your work and things that you want to do for your community? Why don't we start with you, Mart?
Yeah, I just like to thank everyone who's been involved, and the people who've been volunteering their time here. Hong Kong is notorious about everyone claiming to be too busy to do anything. Civil society or volunteering isn't a big thing in Hong Kong. So the uptake that we've seen in ODHK is really promising. It's really fantastic.
Hooray! Let's hear it for community. Bastian, what can you say?
Oh, also the resources and the dialogue from Open Knowledge has just been amazing. It's been really helpful to find out what those practices are in other countries, and it really also demonstrates the value of sharing, even if another country is maybe copying everything and trying to apply that. There's a lot of value of having localized or unique implementations, but it's also important to feed that back to. And so that others can understand that as well. And the work of Open Knowledge is very important for that, and we've been able to benefit from that in a lot of different ways. Pointing to the index and saying, hey, we can do a lot better. Look at these other countries, and you know what? The sky didn't fall. They got into open data, and they're still around, and they're doing a lot better, and there's all these other things we can better understand.
The sky didn't fall. We translated it into 3 languages.
Yeah, and kudos to these countries who, without really being able to see for sure what these opportunities are and what the successes they can face, and taking the leap to getting into open data. It's been very helpful. Next week we're looking at the copyright of government information, right? And so which is a very individualized topic that we could be discussing in our own bubble, but it certainly contextualizes a lot better, pointing out to what's going on in the UK and what's going on in Canada, and saying, hey, here are all the other benefits if we were to open this up and making it possible with public domain. So yeah, it's been very valuable that the work of Open Knowledge and other open data communities around the world, and but also to stress too, it's very important that we all continue to share and benefit from how the success and lessons that others are learning.
Well, thanks so much, Mart and Bastian. I really appreciate our chance to talk today and to learn your work. And I just want to say best of luck on your next Longitude hackathon and whatever's happening up in the fall. Please know that I'll be coming after you for more details. And just to say it off, how people reach you is, how can they reach you?
They can reach us on our Facebook page is probably best. It's fb.opendatahk.com.
Okay, super. So and you post all your upcoming events on Facebook. And how can other groups from other groups from Southeast Asia or other places around the world, how can they reach you?
Getting in touch with the community, posting up on the Facebook wall. Then it's wider than Mart and I, because there's a lot of you'll get an answer probably even faster from the members who are there. So yeah, posting
I love it. Force multiplier, love it. All right, gentlemen, have a wonderful day in Hong Kong, and I'm going to go get some sleep.
Thanks so much.
And thanks so much, and I will record it and share it with everybody. So thanks again, and good luck to Open Data Hong Kong.
Awesome.